Do you need a website? Why not do it yourself with Wix.com? No matter what business you're in, you can get your site live today. With hundreds of templates and easy drag and drop features, it's simple to customize and there's no coding needed. You don't need to be a programmer or designer to create something beautiful. Go to Wix.com and create your own stunning website. It's easy and free. Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
Norm's still at Dragon Con.
Norm.
I used to do that every time he came in the office.
I bet he loved that.
I'm not sure, actually. Sometimes Norm's a little hard to read.
Shocking.
We're going to do some more questions and answers this week.
Yes.
And these came from Twitter. So if you sent a Twitter question in, thanks.
Yeah.
Our first one comes from John E. Bosworth on Twitter. He says, "Hey guys, what's your favorite Tarantino film?" That's like ranking children. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, well, it's bad to tell them. The children.
Okay, fair enough. I only have one, so she's my favorite daughter.
Yeah, John Hodgman has a funny essay in The New Yorker about how growing up as an only child is more like having a weird pair of older roommates.
I can see that.
Yeah. Favorite Tarantino film. Okay.
What was the first Tarantino film you saw in a theater?
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, me too. Because I saw Reservoir Dogs on VHS tape in like my dorm room.
Right. It's hard not to say Pulp Fiction just because it's so important.
But favorite and important are two different things.
It's true. Pulp Fiction is one that I can enjoy all the way through at any moment.
Yes, and I can pick up Pulp Fiction at any point. And I can stop it over. At some point, I'm probably going to take my Blu-ray rip and edit so it's chronological just to see what happens.
It doesn't quite work. I
can't imagine it would.
I can't remember. There's one weird spot if you do that.
Well, there's some missing sequences. There's like a fair amount of missing time, right?
Yeah,
between like Jules and Marvin and the wolf.
Yeah, I can't quite remember. And the breakfast.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm a huge fan of Jackie Brown.
We rewatched that recently, and it is like just the spoilers for Jackie Brown.
Spoiler alert.
The intensity, it's a 20-year-old movie, so I think we're okay.
You think we're okay. That chick in the crying game is a man.
Spock dies at the end of Khan. Or maybe Kirk, depends on which one you're watching. Right. So that turn at the end when Robert De Niro just flips out, I had completely forgotten about, and it is shocking. Right? Everything's cool. You're walking through the parking lot, and all of a sudden he's just like, I can't take this anymore. Bam, 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 bam.
Lewis.
Yeah.
Tarantino in the extra materials on the DVD, which is really worth watching, says he wanted to write a movie in which it felt like you were hanging out with the main characters. And I will say, having watched Jackie Brown 4 or 5 times over the years, it gets better every time I watch it. Ordell,
yeah. Sam
Jackson's character is a terrifying villain who seems like a parody of himself. But Tarantino lets you know right away that this guy is just a bad man. But you also are drawn to him because he's very charismatic and he's very smart. And there's this point where there's a quadruple cross going on in this film.
Oh, it is every bit as complex in a storytelling way as Pulp Fiction was.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't notice the first, let's say, time or two you watch it.
But there's this point at which, in the middle of like the triple cross, Ordell just closes he's like, why did that happen? Why did that happen? And he closes his eyes and he opens it up and he goes, is that Jackie Brown? And you're like, oh man, he's smarter than I thought he was.
Yeah.
This is scary. That stuff is great. Pam Grier is amazing. Robert Forster. I mean, I want to tell you, Jackie Brown is a masterpiece. I say that about a lot of things, but really, I'm usually right.
You have pretty good taste, it turns out. If I had to pick favorites, it's Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown and Kill Bill and Death Proof. Like that run.
I love that you love Death Proof because most people can't stand it.
Look, Death Proof, the scene with Zoe Bell on the hood of the car is one of the most tense pieces of film because you know something bad's going to happen. You know something bad's going to happen. It just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And then he rear ends and then the whole thing flips and it is unbelievable.
It's great.
Also, the scenes that they shot in the Texas Chili Parlor with the victims, Rose McGowan and I can't remember the other two people, but is like, A, if you ever go to Austin, you should go to the Texas Chili Parlor because it's a pretty amazing experience. B, like it's just really, really tight and really, really intense. And
I love the dialogue.
Where in the hell is this even going?
Yeah, I know. No, and that's what I love. And Tarantino has regrets about that film, and he's talked about them publicly. That he sort of thought, my people will be along for any kind of ride I want to give them. But I'm a defender of that film. I really enjoyed Kill Bill. I will tell you that every now and then, Tarantino, who owns the New Beverly Theater in Los Angeles, California, will unspool his submission cut of Kill Bill called The Whole Damn Affair, which is both movies cut into one long movie, and it's really worth. I flew to LA to see it.
Oh man, I would totally go do that. Yeah,
and it was really worth the weekend.
That's supposed to be coming out on Blu-ray at some point.
Really?
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's
what, like 3.5 hours long, 4 hours long?
Yeah, but it doesn't include. So Kill Bill Part 1 includes a surprise. Kill Bill Part 1 ends with you realizing that the daughter's still alive. Mm-hmm. The Whole Damn Affair.
The call from the French.
From Bill to
Sophie, right after she's had her arm chopped off.
But the Whole Damn Affair doesn't reveal that until Beatrix runs, bursts through the door in Salinas, in the hotel in Salinas. And so,
oh man,
yeah. So you're hit with the weight of that all at once. You don't spend the second half of the movie knowing the daughter's alive. Now, I mean, I already knew the daughter was alive, but I will tell you from a filmic standpoint, it's a much more powerful thing all at once.
I made a real push to have my daughter's name be Beatrix, and the wife wouldn't go for it because she saw through that motive immediately. Like I like that movie that much. So if I had to pick a favorite, it's probably, I mean, I know it's two movies, but Kill Bill.
Yeah, we're calling it one movie.
You can't beat Kill Bill. I don't think.
Yeah, it's wonderful, 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 wonderful.
Let's do a next one. Next question.
Okay.
Do you, this might be more of a me question than a you question, but do you have any views on the iOS 9 or iOS 9 betas?
I haven't been running iOS 9. You have. My son, Thing 2, has been. He's now on the beta program, and the stuff he's telling me about what iOS 9 does contextually, i.e., you're nearing your home, I'm going to open up your garage door opener. Mm-hmm. That's brilliant.
Okay, so I've bought into the smart home business, and all of the lights in my house are controlled by a computer now. So we don't have to hit switches. When you walk into a room, they just turn on. When I want to turn off the lights at the end of the night, I tell the Amazon Echo to turn off all the lights, and she does. That stuff is magic. Yeah. It is still janky to a point that I'm very anxious about putting the security of my... And I understand that this is an irrational concern because like locks are a minor impediment at most to a determined assailant.
But I still haven't put a digital lock on my front gate.
Right. That's it. The chance of me messing that up when I program it or it messing up when something, when the power goes off is too high for me.
I agree. I totally agree.
The iOS 9 stuff is pretty good. The multitasking on the iPad Air 2 is really nice. Mm-hmm. You can, if the app has an appropriate view, has like a 1/3 view, then you can slide in, say, messages or email or something like that from like the left side of the screen or right side of the screen, I guess.
Oh, nice.
So then you can have like an email and something else open at the same time, which is super handy.
That's cool.
It's other than that, it's kind of like a bunch of small cosmetic-y stuff. There's more contextual information. So the one thing that they did that I really like is they brought back, remember the old slide in from when you were on the home screen and you went left one, there was a search window. Mm-hmm. That page is back and it has stuff like the most frequently contacted. It has
that's a very useful feature to me.
Yeah, it's because there's 6 people that I talk to all the time. Yeah. It also has like your next appointment and that kind of stuff, and maybe restaurants around you or movies around you. It seems like that might be getting smarter based on how I use the device, and it seems like it'd be more useful on the phone than it is probably on the tablet. I haven't put it on the phone yet.
Well, I mean, I think that there's the location-based stuff is really exciting to me. Like, hey, can you let me know when my kid is on their way home? Mm-hmm. And Find My Friends actually does that. You can actually say, which is one of the ways I track my kids. Find My Friends says you can actually set it to say, oh, my kid's at the high school. Please let me know when he leaves this building. Text me.
And so do you use the family sharing stuff that they put in iOS 8? So if you add
Like
your
find my
kids to your
iPhone?
no, you don't have to do any of that. If you do families, then you can go to details on the text page, and it just shows you where your people are.
Okay, I'll have to take a look at that.
It's
I did not know that.
super
Okay.
useful. It basically means that you no longer have to send. I mean, my wife and I have a very open relationship. We share our information.
Yeah, me
right?
too.
We don't ever have to send that text. The hey, when are you going to be here text, because you can see.
Right.
You don't worry, like if somebody hasn't called or you're running late or whatever, you just go look. You're like, oh, it's still at the grocery store. She'll be here when she gets here.
Exactly.
So that's good.
All right, next question.
Next question comes from Martin _David. He says, how do you handle fanboyness?
How do I handle fanboyness?
This is a taser, maybe?
I've talked about this on the podcast before.
Yeah.
I'm very clear that if you ask for a picture and I'm out with my kids, I say no. I ask for your forgiveness that I would normally do it on any day, but when I'm out with them, I would rather not.
Well, you are like Norm and I get a little tiny taste of this, especially if we go to cons and stuff like that, where we're more recognizable. But like it seems like the neighborhood that you live in is very kind of generally accommodating. People are just, it's just like you're part of the background fixture of the neighborhood now.
I am, and people are really chill, and that's fine in this neighborhood. Look, I'm a fanboy myself, and I've told this story too, but I remember almost every time I'm meeting someone to whom I'm very important and they're telling me about it, I remember meeting Peter Gabriel when I was like 24. And he was so crazy important to me. I remember every second of like the 98 seconds we were talking. And I bought all of his albums, and that was an important interaction to me. And I'm interested in making the interaction good with a fan. I want them. I enjoy a very nice life because of the fans, and this is the least I can do is be nice. So. There is sometimes an unspoken desire from the person you're meeting to achieve in the fastest way possible some kind of deep connection. And that becomes difficult to manage sometimes because it's not necessarily going to happen. But at the same time, I really appreciate that the show we made has resonance, and it had resonance for you, and you want to tell me about that. I really, really genuinely appreciate hearing about that.
The thing that I love, well, two things. You said a long time ago, I think on the podcast even, about meeting somebody that you were really excited to meet, and then you started talking and you realized that they were also equally excited to meet you, and all awkwardness melted away.
Well, that happened almost immediately with Jason Reitman.
Right.
He says this during the interview.
Affable.
He goes, "It's very ridiculous that you're interviewing me and not the other way around." He says, "I'm a much bigger fan of you than you are of me," which I don't think is true, Jason.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly sweet, and you're right that when the Mutual Admiration Society makes all that tension go away.
But even when you go up and meet someone who doesn't know you, which happens to me still,
right?
It's always awkward on both sides, right? Like there's an awkwardness to both sides of an interaction with somebody. And like my goal when I'm meeting somebody who's excited to meet me is to make them as comfortable as possible and to get a positive interaction. And I love finding out what people are into, because that's the other thing is like we do kind of live in a bubble. We're in San Francisco and things are a little weird here. Yeah. But also I don't get to interact with normal people on a day-to-day basis. So when I meet somebody and they talk about how they like knitting like non three-dimensional spaces, and I'm like, this is something I know or implanting brain probes in the brains of rats to control them, to remote control living creatures.
Nice.
Then that's like these are the things that they do for fun or for a living.
Right.
I love finding out about that stuff because it's super fascinating.
Totally. I love asking kids what they're working on. What's the latest project you built? When people tell me that they've gone into engineering because of Mythbusters, I'm dying to hear what branch and what they're finding exciting about it. I really enjoy that conversation.
Yeah. And always avoid asking what you do for work. That's always my move. I try to avoid asking, just in general, what people do for a living. Because it's the least, it should be, assuming we're all well-rounded individuals, that should be the least interesting thing about you, with a few exceptions.
Yeah.
Is that a European thing, really?
It is. It's very European. So you can have a whole dinner party with people who don't know each other, and almost no one will find out what each other does for a living by the end of the night, because it's not a standard question. It's just a cultural difference. And it's a definitive difference in America, where we tend to identify very deeply with our careers, with our jobs. That's not necessarily the case the world over.
It's funny. This started for me because I had such a phenomenally difficult time explaining what I do for a living without sounding like a crazy person.
Yeah.
That I just stopped asking it, because then you avoid the question back.
Right.
But it ended up being a good conversational game.
And that is actually, I was at a cocktail party a couple days ago, a little barbecue, and most of the people at the party didn't know who I was.
Oh, that's got to be super fun.
Oh yeah, but the thing is I also then avoid "what do you do" as a question, because it'll automatically lead back, and it looks like you're trolling.
Yeah, you can't slow play that.
Right? No.
Oh, yeah, I've been on TV for the last 13 or 14 years. It's no big deal.
There was a wonderful essay on politeness that came out about a year and a half ago, and the author, whose name escapes me, it's a terrific article. I'll see if I can find it so we can link to it. Talks about 2 conversational gambits about being polite that I really like. One is, see how long you can go before the question of what each of you does for a living comes up. Like, really work at staying away from that question. And the other thing is, when someone tells you what their job is, immediately say, that sounds really hard.
Okay.
Because everyone's job is hard.
Yeah.
Everyone's job is hard to them. And he says, as a test case, he said he was at a party and this woman said her job was to help celebrities pick out jewelry.
That sounds awful. That sounds like a living hell.
And he said, that sounds really hard. And she was like, it is. He watched her light up and tell him for like 20 minutes all the difficulties of her job. And when they were done, she was like, I really appreciated meeting you.
That's
had
lovely.
a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Avoid talking about work. And then when they do get there, this is great advice. Not at all the answer, but I think we got an answer in there somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in there is an answer you can take
work
home.
it out. Andrew Murphy, or Stoppable Murph. That's a pretty good Twitter handle too.
Stoppable Murph.
I mean,
is that an alternate reality to?
I assume that one day he'll level up and become Unstoppable Murph.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
He says, I'd love your guys' opinion on the Kingkiller Chronicles books if you've read them. If not, you definitely should, by the way. These are Patrick Rothfuss's fantasy books, and I have read them.
I have not.
They are fabulous.
Okay, that's the next thing I'm reading.
He writes the most delightful prose.
Okay, it's the next thing I'm reading, because he also has one of the loveliest voices in literature.
Oh, yeah.
What I mean is, we had Rothfuss is a friend of Woodstock, and he was at Comic-Con this year, and I walked up to the backstage while he was on stage, and I had forgotten it was him that was up, and I was like, who has this beautiful voice?
It's just kind of a deep, rumbly.
It's a movie voice, a movie announcer voice.
Kind of, yeah. That's kind of underselling it, though.
It is.
Yeah, it's very he's the kind of, I imagine that he tells wonderful stories to his children.
And speaking of Woodstock-friendly authors, I just finished the Android's Dream by Scalzi.
Is it not the best?
It's very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, and it is.
I really loved it.
That is an early Scalzi even. So like he was hitting on all cylinders really early on.
It's just terrific. I love all the alien cultures described. I love the battles. I love the implications. Scalzi's brought me back to science fiction.
Is that the book?
Well, maybe it was Neil Stephenson with Seven Eves.
I think Seven Eves maybe
And then
did.
I jumped into Scalzi with both feet because Red Shirts just looked too exciting. And as soon as I read that, I was like, gotta read more of this.
Is Android's Dream the one that starts with the description of the extreme improbability of complete solar eclipses?
No.
That must be Agent to the Stars. Agent to the Stars is another Scalzi book about an alien race that is unpleasant looking by human standards, who comes to LA and gets an Ari Gold type character to be their agent, to slowly seed humanity to make them ready for a first encounter through pop culture.
Oh, nice.
And it leads with solar eclipses are a tourist stop for aliens in the world, because the configuration of the right size moon to the right size planet to the right distance from the sun, the right size sun, to get a full solar eclipse from a moon, pretty improbable.
Oh.
And yeah, that's,
nifty.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
Sure.
It's the kind of thing you don't think about, but then you're like, oh yeah, okay. Tiny blue dot. Who knew? You should read Kingkiller. They are.
I'm going out to buy it after this because I was going to go out and get some more Scalzi books, and I'll pick that up.
So the only problem with Kingkiller is it's going to ruin you for all other fantasy because he writes such lovely prose. Like speaking of your fanboy interactions, when I was at Woodstock the first or second time and Pat was there, I walked up to him and said something like, "Oh, I love your book. Your book is the only book I don't feel ashamed to recommend that's fantasy." And then I just ran away.
Thanks, I think, is the response to that.
Yeah. So he gave me the look. And then I think I said, "I have a podcast." and he looked at me. He was like, "Well, I would next time I'm in San Francisco, send me a note to this address, and we'd love to have." And I never did. So I was like, "This
we gotta
is
have
a
him
thing
on.
You can't back out of."
We were going to have Scalzi on here, but I screwed up the schedule. But yes, we got to have some more authors on this podcast.
And then I think that's it for questions.
That's it for questions.
Is that it? You want? Let me. See,
what else we got?
Yeah, you take the look.
Okay.
I'll just cut here.
We don't have to cut here. Everyone can watch this happening in real time.
Nothing people love more. You can talk about the price of housing in San Francisco, which is bonkers.
Median price of a one bedroom in San Francisco is now, what did you say?
$35.30?
$35
for a month.
$30.
I've stayed in hotels that cost less than that for a month.
Wait, so just to be clear, that's a mortgage on a $400,000 house?
More than that. 600 probably.
$600,000.
Assuming you, like that is a mortgage on a if you have 25% down like you're supposed to, that's probably a mortgage on a $750,000 house.
That's ridiculous.
But the problem is you can't get a $750,000 house.
No.
My wife and I can't find a place that has 2 bathrooms that cost less than $1 million.
Oh my God, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy talk. But wait, there was
Scott Martin asked how you guys got involved with us.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about that, have we?
No, we haven't.
We can tell the story of the. Was there something better?
Let me see here.
There was a question about things that you regretted having to say no to. That's down toward the bottom of the list.
Wave says, "Move to Oakland."
It's not that much cheaper.
Yeah, but you'd be closer to Wave. Hi, Wave.
Not a bad thing.
If you could be placed into any fictional universe, what would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a good one. This is from MGO58.
I like this question. I am interested. So effectively, like, where would you go with a holodeck?
Well, first we should ask the rules, right? Rules? Are you a notable person in that universe, or are you just a normal chud? Like, are you just a schmo? Like, are you a moisture farmer, or are you Luke Skywalker? Right?
Yeah.
Because like that's a real important distinction, you know, is it? Do you bring the knowledge that you have for, like, if you go back into medieval era, can you bring modern medicine and penicillin?
Let's assume that you are actually a mover and a shaker in that universe.
Okay, because this game's no fun without that.
Yeah, the game, we're just like, no, I'd like to be a serf.
I was thinking 20 years mining potatoes and eating acorns was a good way to go.
Right.
Growing potatoes.
I
not mining.
I love the universe. I gravitate immediately towards my favorite writer, Raymond Chandler, and want to be in 1950s Philip Marlowe's Los Angeles.
See, I got to go with Hitchhiker's Guide.
Oh, yeah.
I would be
it's really
a
hard
Ford
to
prefect.
Yeah.
You know, a stringer for the guide.
Yeah.
This is not really that far from what I do now.
Right, except you're not going to space, but yeah.
Right.
Traveling around to different things. You bring a towel everywhere.
Right. A little bit of alcohol abuse.
Yeah.
Being late with expense reports. It's really, I've modeled my life on that when I think about it too hard.
You know, it's also be hard to beat the Old Man's War universe from Scalzi.
I don't know, man. That seemed pretty dystopian and grim. Of course, I read further into those books than you have.
Right. I've still got to read past Old Man's War.
It's still all about green skin human clones having sex with each other after getting into young bodies.
I'll tell you, I would not want to go to the Brave New World. I don't think I'd like to live in the world of the Matrix.
It's hard to not be kind of your chud in the Matrix.
Yeah,
your
like
Duracell, copper top.
Chud.
Yeah.
Don't want to go to the Blade Runner world.
No. Alien seems like a bad way to go.
Alien seems totally terrible. The Company Weyland-Yutani, no, that's a bad universe.
Star Trek would be good.
Star Trek, yes. The utopia of Star Trek, absolutely. You know what? That might be the front runner right now.
And that, you know what? I wouldn't mind being a chud in the Star Trek universe.
Yeah,
I think that's interesting.
Not so bad. That's still pretty darn good.
You write your own story.
Totally. Totally.
What about we could go some weird meta level. Do you see Stranger Than Fiction?
No, I haven't seen Stranger Than Fiction. Marvel Universe. What about the Marvel Universe?
There's not really any women there. I mean, that might be a bummer long term.
Linda Cardellini.
Yeah, okay.
I love her. Linda Cardellini plays Bullseye? Not Bullseye. Jeremy Renner's character's
Hawkeye.
wife, Hawkeye's wife in Age of Ultron.
Yes.
She also played the neighbor that Don Draper was sleeping with in Mad Men.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Hold on. We already had this conversation, didn't we?
No.
I've had this conversation
and
with
she's
someone.
also the girl in the Green Army jacket. She's the star of Freaks and Geeks, the first Judd Apatow
Really?
show. Yeah! Boom! Just laid that on you.
Wow.
Yeah, Linda
more you
Cardellini
know.
is actually a genius. And 2 years ago, she lost the Emmy for a guest slot in a TV series. And I thought that was a crying
Mad Men?
shame. Yeah.
Oh, she was wonderful
I
in
think
that.
the acting that she did in Mad Men was actually some of the best acting on television that year. Her characterization was wonderful, but also her characterization of not only the person she was playing, but of the time. I think she was one of the most period actors on the show that season. I mean, just in the way she moved felt like it was 30, 40, 50 years old.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
She was my favorite sad character on that season
Yeah,
of the show.
that's the girl from Freaks and Geeks. What? Wow. She's also in that Kyle Chandler show Bloodline. She plays one of the sisters in Bloodline. And she's terrific in that.
This might be too close, but would you be a Mad Men era ad man?
It's my dad was.
I know.
My dad was, and he got out of it because it was killing him. I don't think. My dad and I are different people. I might have found more enjoyment in that world. That's entirely possible.
I'll tell you what. If I could do any job,
I would have to do without the alcoholism. The alcohol. I'd want to do without the alcoholism and misogyny.
well, those people aren't alcoholics. They just drink. I've been watching the Muppet Show.
How is
the
it?
70s Muppet Show.
The
is
original.
fabulous.
Yeah.
I would go back. I would if I could go back and do any job, I would be a Muppeteer or maybe just a puppet builder. I don't care.
God, that show was so wonderful.
It is so much more adult than I remembered it being. Yeah. So much more adult than I remembered it being.
Oh my God, what a wonderful thing that was. And now they're rebooting it.
I saw it's Chuck Lorre's doing it, right?
No, Bill Prady.
Bill Prady. I saw Bill
Brady
Prady.
is one of the created Big Bang Theory with Chuck Lorre, and got his start as a writer on the Muppets. So Bill started out as a writer for the Muppets.
So when I saw him, we were at his party at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And I saw him, and it was really all I could do to be like, man, I'm really glad you're doing the Muppets. Don't fuck it up, or I will come for you. Okay?
Don't worry, he knows. And yeah. I love Bill. He's a good friend. And Bill actually said one of my favorite phrases ever about my dog Huxley, who I've talked about endlessly. Huxley is a reincarnated Rinpoche. I'm convinced of it. He's here to teach us about unconditional love. And as Bill Prady said to me one day, Huxley is the answer to the question, who's a good doggy?
Okay, knowing that, I feel a little bit better about the Muppets.
Exactly, and you should.
That's a very Muppety attitude.
I totally agree.
Let's see. Let's do one more.
All right.
Tom Clark. Maybe we'll do two more. But Tom Clark. Tom Tack 98 says, "Do you have any favorite stationery or notebooks for people returning to school?"
For people returning to school. Right now, I'm addicted to field notes. I have like 8 of them, and in fact, I have 8 full field notes sitting by my bed waiting for me to transcribe the important shit from them on like 7 different subjects into my Evernote so that I have access to
Why
it.
don't you just take a picture, or you just want them searchable?
I want them searchable, and sometimes I'm writing things down like sing along. And I know what that means.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not going to be clear to me in a week or in a month, so I have to get it down. I'm just literally like, so when I go to concerts or stage shows, I get ideas for my stage show. And I was at Weird Al last week here in San Francisco, and that was wonderful. And then 2 nights ago, I took the boys, Thing 1 and Thing 2, to see Billy Joel at Pac Bell Park.
Okay, hold on. Weren't you in a Billy Joel video?
I was.
You were the red-haired kid that drowned or almost drowned.
So this is great. This is a great way to end this podcast.
Yeah, this is going to get crazy.
So I wanted to go see Billy Joel. My boys are independently in love with Billy Joel's music. They discovered him on their own. Thing One listens to it all the time. I hear Honesty coming up from the downstairs, and I'm just like, oh yeah, these songs meant so much to me when I was a kid. Billy Joel is the Bruce Springsteen of Eastern New York and Long Island, and was very important to me growing up. And then when I was 16 or 16 and a half, I got cast as the second lead in a Billy Joel music video called You're Only Human. It is a terrible video.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. It's so terrible, and I've said this before, my wife couldn't make it through the whole thing.
We just fast forwarded. Before and I were watching it in the office.
So I happen to know some people who work on Billy Joel's touring crew, and we got tickets, and then we got backstage, and we had a Billy Joel fantasy camp night on Saturday night. So we met up with my new friend Drew, who's a good friend of one of my road crew, and Drew took us backstage, gave us just the really e-ticket tour. We got to meet Billy. I said, your music video was my first acting job. So you kind of started this, and he's like, I've been watching your show, and I'm like, oh, cool. He's like, that's some fun shit you do. And he says, is it true you were in one of my videos? I was like, yeah, I was in You're Only Human. And he goes, wait, were you the kid on the bridge? And I'm like, no, I'm the kid who drowns. And he goes, oh, yeah. It's a terrible video. And I said, yes, it was. And he goes, I hated making those things. And I said, well, you were very nice. I drowned out there at Far Rockaway, and it was like November, and I got hypothermia, and you let me warm up in your trailer, and you gave me a cigarette. And he was like, corrupting youth. We took a picture. I took a picture with him and the boys. They were beside themselves.
Oh, man.
And then we got to watch the opening act turned out to be another musician I'm a huge fan of, Gavin DeGraw.
Oh, really?
Who was terrific and got an amazing voice. And his whole band were huge fans of Mythbusters. I took a picture with them. They all seem like they're like 12. I mean, I think they're all in their mid-20s and they're amazing musicians, but they all seem like they were 12 to me. And then we went out to the sound booth, which is the best sound in the whole place because that's where they adjust all the speakers to. We watched most of the show there, and then we went backstage again to watch Billy sing the last few songs, like Piano Man, where the entire audience sings along, Uptown Girl. So good. It's just, I will tell you, if you get a chance to go see Billy, go see him. Unlike a lot of aging rockers, and he's admittedly an aging rocker, he's been doing this for over 40 years, his voice is in fantastic shape.
He always could sing. Like
he is touring once a week, so he's taking really good care of his voice. And his voice is still he can't quite hit some of those highs, so he's adjusted some of the keys, but man, he is tight. And it was lovely hearing him sing some great songs. I Am an Innocent Man with that very high note. He gave a talk. He talked a bit before it. It's like, one night I'm going to try this song and I'm going to go, there it goes. But it was great. And I had never seen a concert at Pac Bell Park. What an amazing venue.
So I've seen two shows there. I saw Green Day on American Idiot, I think, which I went thinking, oh, it's Green Day. I saw them in college in bars in my college town.
No,
I'm going to go see something. And then it was a bunch of 14-year-old girls, and Billy was jamming his hand down his pants just like always.
Wow.
But, much creepier. And then Weezer the same week.
Oh, wow.
And that was also on, maybe it was the week after. That was like Beverly Hills or something. So again, maybe we made the same mistake twice, but we bought the tickets way in advance and we didn't know.
I will tell you that also Billy's whole crew, all from New York, as I grew up in New York. As soon as they learned I was from New York, they started cursing at me, which is basically a New Yorker's way of saying hello.
Yeah.
And they were just sweethearts.
You kind of an accent there.
What's that? Yeah, I got a little bit of an accent there. You're from New York. You're from New York. No, fuck you. Fuck me. Fuck you. Hey, have a coffee.
It's still entitled. It's for kids.
You could bleep that part out. It was great. It was a wonderful show, wonderful night. I'm talking about Billy Joel. So
Excellent.
Let's end there. Hey,
it's as good a place as any.
Billy and his band are the house band at Madison Square Garden.
Really?
They sell it out once a month.
What?
Yep.
Oh, I can see people get on the train, come in from Long Island.
And the
go
crew
see,
is, I'm going. That's all there is to it. I'm going. And
what's the crowd like at a Billy Joel concert?
well, that's
Is it
the
a
thing
bunch
that
of,
they were saying. The crowd in San Francisco was awesome. They're all singing along.
Yeah.
But what the crew was telling me is, oh, you got to come see it in New York, because there's nothing like seeing Billy with the home crowd. They just go insane, and everyone's singing along to every single song all night long.
There you go.
I'm totally there.
So I guess that'll do it for us this week. Billy Joel, a couple of questions.
Yeah.
What was your favorite Tarantino movie? You never said. Pulp Fiction?
It's got to be Pulp Fiction. It's impossible. They're all amazing for very specific reasons. But I'm going to start with Pulp Fiction because it's so important to me, and it's so deeply ingrained
and it's watchable
in the way that I think. My wife and I quote it to each other almost every day, and now me and my kids do too.
I have a question for you. What was the first movie you saw in theaters? Do you remember?
I think it was like Dumbo or something like that.
A Disney
yeah, it was something on that front. And I saw it at the Strand in Tarrytown, New York, which has not been a theater for probably 40 years.
So for me, it was either the Muppet movie, the original, or it could have been the Apple Dumpling Gang. I'm not sure. My mom can't remember which order we went in. No, it's Don Knotts. It might be Walter Matthau, but it's Don Knotts and it's the guy who always played the kind of drunk guy in Disney movies, right? Like I want to say he was the banker in Mary Poppins.
Right. There was a bunch of actors that made a living playing drunk people.
Yeah, like lovable,
Hilarious.
affable drunks.
Oh my God!
Anyway,
wow, that was an older time.
Well, standards change, times evolve. What once was just a Tuesday afternoon is now crippling alcoholism. So there you go.
Exactly. Hey, and on that note, favor our podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Today's episode is brought to you by Wix.com. Used by 60 million people throughout the world, Wix.com empowers business owners to create their own professional websites. With the drag and drop builder and hundreds of designer-made templates to choose from, you can get your website live today. It's easy and free. Go to Wix.com and create your stunning website today. It's easy and free. Go to Wix.com and create your stunning website today.